Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Ottawa Senators Roundtable here at the Hockey Writers. Today I'm joined by Dayton and Paul as per usual, and I'm your host Jacob Billington. We're a week into the season now. It's a pretty exciting time. The Senators are 2-1. They have two home wins, and they lost their first game to the Carolina Hurricanes. Um, Before we get into things, how you doing, Dayton?
Oh, tired.
Yeah, Paul, how are you?
Lots going on.
Good. A little bit sad. It's the end of my golf season. I'm sticking a fork in it. It's getting too cold, but so I'm full on old timers hockey now. So
There you go. It's the best way to be.
still waiting
Um,
for that NHL contract. So you know,
it's coming.
if I get one, you won't see me here anymore.
I think it's in the mail. It's on its way.
All right.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for it.
Hopefully later in this episode we can see Dayton's cat again. Made a guest appearance last week.
Yeah, did we get any
Um,
comments about that?
I don't think so. I didn't see
No?
any. But I've been away for the last couple of days, so unless somebody commented one the last few days, I'm not sure. But yeah, so we're 3 games into the season. It's overreaction season in the NHL. You'd see I think the NHL just posted on Instagram that oh, look at this. Austin Matthews is on pace for 164 goals, and so is Brock Besser, and um, Malkin and Crosby are on pace for 164. It's just let's blow everything out of proportion, kind of in a lighthearted tone, I guess. But what do you think of the Senators so far? So, Vladimir Tarasenko, after a pretty subpar preseason, and even the season opener, wasn't looking too great. Shows up in Ottawa, two fantastic games. Brady Tkachuk has back-to-back two-goal games in Ottawa, and Jacob Chychrun, who dominated that home opener. It was really exciting. So those were kind of the 3 stars of the week for the Senators. What do you think of their performances, Dayton?
I'm pleasantly content. That's a that feels like an understatement. This is overreaction. I'm sorry. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
So Tarasenko looking actually like Tarasenko. Kachuk is clearly the goal leader, and I would not be surprised if he retained that lead. And then Chychrun better not get hurt because he is maybe the best Senators defenseman right now. That's incredible. Like that, those are the guys you needed to start hot, and they did. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And even to say Chychrun is the best defenseman, that's not even a hot take. He's arguably the best player so far. I would say the only player in contention with that would be Brady Tkachuk right now. But Jacob Chychrun has been fantastic. Paul, how do you feel about those three top end guys having a really good start to the season?
Hey man, and those three guys are the reason that the Senators are second place in the league, tied for it, right? Overreaction. Top of the Atlantic Division, tied with the Leafs for goals, but no, uh, they came through. You got to keep in mind that you know the Hurricanes were the real test. The game they lost, and they had a couple of softies, so and on home ice against Tampa Bay and oh my God, Tampa Bay, and who's the other team they played?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Yeah. So I don't think you can read too much into it, but there's no question they won the games. It was a great weekend, and everybody can be happy. It's not like they're sitting here having lost the first 3 games, in which case everyone would be lighting their hair on fire. But so all is good with those three guys.
Yeah, and there's kind of two. You talk about how they're kind of starting off 2-1, how it's a good start to the season. This is the first time under DJ Smith that the Senators have gone 2-1 to start the season. But
Wow.
last year they started the season 4-2, and we all know how the first 2 months of the season went after that. So overreaction, you can go swing it either way. This is the best
Yeah,
start
but
for
they
ever.
lost Norris very quickly after that, whereas
Yes,
they don't have Norris already. So
fantastic point. That is an excellent point. Um,
There you
Maybe
go.
back
Yep.
soon. We don't know. Maybe putting him into the lineup after a quick start is going to boost the team even more. We'll get into Norris a little bit later. But yeah, that is a great point. Thomas Chabot. I'm a defender. I will defend Thomas Chabot every time. He's making it very difficult right now. No points to the first 3 games. I think in my 20 for 20 piece that I released today, I said that he was a point per game. I don't know what I was thinking when I was writing that. So I apologize for the people that called me out on that. But he has no points so far. He's been passed quite a few times on some easy plays to defend. He did transition to the right side during preseason, so he's in a little bit of a new position. But some of the plays that are getting by him could be blamed on switching to the right side. Some have nothing to do with the side of the ice that you're on. So, what do you think of Chabot through the first 3 games, Paul?
Well, you're right. He allowed a couple of guys to get behind him. There's a turnover, if I recall. But hey, look, Stutzle made some boneheaded plays, especially in Carolina. Nobody's on him, but they're all over Chabot, which is a bit unfair. And I checked his time on the ice, and he is still doing major minutes here. So he's doing something right out there. If you look at the way he clears the zone, there's a reason that he's playing that much time. So you got to cut him some slack.
All right, Paul or Dayton, sorry.
2 Pauls. Yeah, I don't know. Chabot is. I don't want to see him playing top minutes anymore. I don't want to see him on the top line. He's fine, the top pairing, but not leading the team in minutes. That's not something he should be doing anymore because they have Chychrun and because they have Sanderson. Those are 2 guys who they should be sharing the minutes with. And at this moment, Chychrun should be leading an ice time. Now, if you're worried about him getting injured, okay, sure. Maybe don't do that. Let Sanderson play it. He can handle it.
Yeah.
Look at him in the first few games.
Yeah, I'm putting some stock into what Jacob was saying about him trying things out on the right-hand side. Hey, tomorrow night against Washington, he might be back in his usual spot, and that could change things. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think we're seeing some flaws that have always kind of existed. They've just been put under a microscope here a little bit. And now that the Senators have lots of top guys, the team can start relying on him less. And maybe, like you mentioned, Jacob, that's part of the reason why he's struggling a little bit to start. His role has changed. That's a good thing, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm not overly concerned about it yet. Obviously, if we're 10 games in, or when we're recording this next week and we're still having the same conversation, then it's a little bit different. It's only 3 games. This is overreaction season. I'm sure that every player has had a 3-game stint as poor as Chabot's has been last season. His has just happened to be right at the beginning of the season. So during the preseason, I think that the Chabot-Chychrun pair was fantastic. And so hopefully they can get back to that. Obviously Chychrun has been fantastic, like we've already talked about. And so, yeah, hopefully Chabot can bounce back into that really important role that he plays with this team. So speaking of Chabot kind of struggling, I don't know if you two saw I believe it was TSN 1200 or Claire Hanna that tweeted it out today. But Jake Sanderson is taking reps on power play 1 today in practice. So he's taken over Chabot's role. I find it really interesting that Sanderson got it instead of Chychrun, but I think the part of that is that Chychrun has such a great shot and that they can play him on the half wall and just get a great shot off. Same as a forward could be playing. But yeah, what do you think of Jake Sanderson taking over on power play 1? If that's the case, it could have just been trying out something new in practice. But if we see that tomorrow in Washington, what do you think, Dayton?
I love it. It kind of builds on what I was just saying. Getting Jake Sanderson in there is exactly what should be happening. He's the 5th overall pick from 2020. He's finally coming into, well, not finally, he's coming into his own right now. And that's excellent news for the Senators, especially if we're talking playoff hopes. To see him take over the power play 1 unit, that is exactly his trajectory. He's a better 2-way guy than Chychrun or Chabot. And having that insurance policy on that line is perfect. And also, yeah, he's no slouch with the puck either. So yeah, I think it's perfect. Great.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that he's definitely getting that chance, because even through most of the season last year, just the way he can hold the line, the way he can put the puck on net. Chabot had some great times there too, and I don't want this to be an episode of just dumping on Chabot. He had some great times last year as well, especially on the offensive side. On the defensive side is where the problems were, but when we're talking about the power play, it's not. We're not talking about his defensive style. But Sanderson has done a fantastic job of holding the line and getting the puck to the net and making the smart pass, and giving him a shot on the first power play is kind of exactly what the Senators need to do. The first power play has not been as juiced up as it was last year, despite having arguably better personnel on it. But yeah, I think putting Sanderson there is a great idea. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, the way he skates, carries the puck, it's clear that he can quarterback a power play. So, he's going to be interesting to watch. We'll see in the next couple of games whether he works out. And I'm sure that's what DJ's trying to do, like to mix things up and see what he's got in his arsenal. So I'll be watching closely.
Yeah, I really hope we see it, even just as a little test run. Try and get the juices flowing in that top unit. It'd be great to see against Washington tomorrow. Josh Norris is. Oh, sorry. Before we get to Josh Norris, has there been any major surprises for you so far? Dayton, I want to start with you because I think I already know your answer.
Yeah, you do. Rourke Chartier. You checked out his advanced stats?
Yep.
That guy's fantastic on the third line.
Yep.
That's exactly who the Senators need. And okay, sure, he has no points so far, I think. Last I looked, he didn't. But his faceoffs have been great. His defensive metrics are good. His expected goals are fourth on the team. Like, he is creating chances and driving that line. That's like, he's the perfect Pinto replacement. And of course, the Senators want Pinto back. But I don't think it can now come at the expense of Chartier. He has proven that he is solid there.
I've really liked Chartier. He's been a very pleasant surprise to me. Obviously, you said that he was the guy to watch for you. You said that last week. Look at you, Dayton. You should be a pro scout.
Working on it.
Your career. Don't leave our podcast though. But yeah, he's been fantastic. I would still absolutely much prefer Pinto in that role. But the moment that Pinto or Josh Norris are back in the lineup, I'd rather see Chartier in the lineup than Kastelik. At this point in the season, I really liked Kastelik last year. I still don't even understand why he got sent to Belleville after the All-Star game, if you can recall. But he was great last year. He was a great fourth line center, physical, energetic, and just decent on the two-way game, which is all you can really ask for from a fourth line center. Anything more than that is a premium. And right now, Rourke Chartier is playing like a premium fourth line center. Obviously, we don't know if this is something that can stick around for long term. Maybe him and Kastelik kind of bounce in and out as that role. But right now, even if you put Kastelik to the wing and pull McEwen out of the lineup, either way, I would like to see Rourke Chartier play the fourth line. What do you think, Paul? Who's surprised you the most?
Well, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mathieu Joseph, right? He's, his stock's going up every game he plays. I think that's a surprise for most fans. I think he's already has he surpassed his goal production from last year?
Even strength. He had 3 goals last year, 1 on the power play, 2 shorthanded, no even strength goals. He's already got 2 even strength goals this year.
Man's on fire. So do you want to trade him? That's my question. But no, I think again, in with the theme of overreaction, is he going to keep this pace up? No, I doubt it. And he's not going to stay. He's not going to stay on that second line once you get Pinto and Norris back. And when he drops down to the bottom 6, I can't see him keeping that production up. But it does raise the question, though. Who do you move? Because you got to keep, if you want to sign Pinto, somebody's leaving. There's no two ways about that. So it was Joseph, but yeah, who's it now? I mean, Brandstrom, his name's popping up more and more.
And
So
moving Brandstrom doesn't clear enough cap because then you got to call up a replacement. And if you're calling Clevin up, then you're only clearing 1.2 million. And Pinto's not signing for 1.2 million. So
yeah.
that's Brandstrom is pretty much out of the question for that, unless there's some insane cap shenanigans that Dorion can pull off. Right now, I think it's Dominic Kubalik. He's been invisible so far. He's already a really streaky player. So sure, his offense is probably coming, and he probably is still going to be that 20-goal guy. I'm not overreacting saying that he's a bum and he can't play in the NHL this year or anything like
Yeah.
that. But at 2.5 million, I'd rather have Pinto in the lineup than Kubalik right now.
So I heard a guru today suggest that you move both Joseph and Brandstrom, ship them both out of town, and then you got cap space, sign Pinto, and then you might pick up, as he put it, a right winger. I don't know.
Okay.
Do you think that's got legs?
He's got to get creative. Dorion has got to get creative with whatever he's going to do. And Steve Stais has got to put a bug in his ear and say, like, listen, we got to get something on the roll, like, right now. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Philadelphia is offering a first-round pick to take Joseph, which is with the way he's playing. Like, he's been fantastic, but obviously joking about that. But, yeah, it's been fantastic. So, yeah, Rourke Chartier and Matthew Joseph, two fantastic, surprising players. I'm
And
gonna go. What was that, sorry?
I'll throw in one more is Ridley Gregg.
Yeah.
I mean, real surprise, pleasure to watch. I don't know if you guys saw that. Well, of course you saw that that pass he made to Tarasenko between his legs.
You know what? I didn't. I saw it on Twitter later. I didn't see it. I heard it. I was listening to the game on my drive home from Ottawa over the weekend. So, but yeah,
he got absolutely pasted in the corner, got himself up, charged in front of the net, comes up with a puck and bang through his legs to Tarasenko, and Tarasenko drove it home. So yeah, he's a real surprise. I knew he was going to be good, but not this good.
it's insane to think that Ridley Gregg is playing so good. He could, I mean, this is definitely, again, overreaction season and overestimating. He could score 65 points this year in that role that he's playing and not be a Calder finalist. Like, this is just such an insane, actually, I don't think he's eligible for the Calder. He might be. I'm not sure. But either way, like, he could be one of the best rookies, score 65 points, not even be eligible or not even be considered for the Calder. So it's really nice to see that he's having such a good year. Does he kind of like take the heat off of the pressure of signing Pinto, Dayton?
I think a little bit. It sort of pushes that conversation back into the Senators' corner, saying, "Hey, we've got Gregg performing unreal. We've got Chartier completely shattering any expectations. You want to sit? Great. We're fine. We won 2 home games. We came close to competing with the Hurricanes, which is, I realize that's a kind of way of saying that, but we almost competed against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Wasn't a great start to their season, but yeah, that puts the pressure back on Pinto that he's got to find a way to get his contract, or he's got to wait.
Right.
But you're talking pressure. Jacob, were you one of the 20,000 fans chanting Pinto? We want Pinto.
We want Pinto. Yeah, there was so much pressure on, like, Ann Lauer was sitting up there, and I have a friend who was sitting right in front of Ann Lauer, and he said like, I've never seen such a bigger smile than Ann Lauer sitting in the press box when everybody was chanting "We want Pinto." Like, he loved the energy, he loved the passion. Obviously, I don't know what Pierre Dorion's reaction to that was. He might have been throwing his Starbucks cup against the wall again, but like, I don't know. Ann Lauer clearly liked the passion. So
yeah.
And I don't want to say that Ridley Gregg immediately, with the way he's been playing through 3 games, you have to trade Pinto. Maybe in the future, because you have Stutzle, Norris if he can stay healthy, Pinto and Greg down the middle. None of them are playing the fourth line. One of them is going to have to move to the wing anyway. It's a conversation worth having. Maybe we'll kind of spend some time on that next week. Just talk about, like, is he really expendable? Hopefully we don't have to have that conversation and he's signed by then. But maybe that's a conversation we can have. Speaking of Josh Norris and if he can stay healthy, he did take full participation in practice today. He was playing on the third line between Kubalik and Batherson. Is he close to a return? We're not too sure. DJ Smith said that he's still waiting on the approval from doctors. Stutzle was out, so he was kind of just filling in an extra role in the lineup. Stutzle was out just for a maintenance day. There's no reason to panic. But yeah, like, do you think it's an indicator that he's close to returning to the lineup, Paul?
I haven't got a clue. I mean, I can't explain any of this. I've heard various theories. The latest I heard today was, well, he's good to go. He wants to go. The team wants him to go, but it's the terrible insurance company that won't approve his return. So I don't know. All I know though is DJ Smith. If you're DJ, your future is hanging in the balance in the first 10 games, and you're saying to yourself, "Give me this guy," right? I mean, if we falter during the first 10, I'm out of here. So he's remarkably composed. I listened to him and he's just matter of fact. I'm being told he's not ready yet. When he's ready, he'll be in the lineup. So I have no, it's clear as mud. I don't think anybody really knows what's going on. It's all speculation.
Right, exactly. Dayton, where's this whole Josh Norris saga dragging your mind to? Put the tinfoil hat back on.
Yeah. I may have left that in the other room. I don't think I'm worried yet. It's weird that he's practicing and then he's not practicing, and then oh, is he gonna come back? Oh no, he's still not cleared. He wants to play. It's a strange situation that I don't think anyone's seen really play out in the NHL before, at least not in my memory. What I have to assume is they are just being incredibly cautious because they don't want last season to happen again.
Right.
They want to make sure that his shoulder, I think it was a shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That it is completely healed, because last time he tried to come back, injured it again, was out the entire rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's such a finicky little injury, it seems, that they are trying to make sure that it is 110% before they move forward. And that's okay. You want a young player like Norris, who has that potential to score 30, 40 goals, to have a long NHL career. And I've written and researched so many cases of kids coming in, getting injured, and they're done.
Yep.
And it really kind of sucks your heart out, because they had so much potential and it's just gone. And then, oh, they're a bust. They're terrible. How could someone draft them? It's well, they were great if they were given that chance and if they were given a little bit of that time. And going back to our Pinto conversation, the fact that Greg and Chartier are performing so well right now, the Senators have that time and they can afford to be a little bit more cautious. Now, if they'd started 0-3, that's not the case. And if the Senators go, 0 and whatever their next number of games to finish off October, that's a high pressure situation. You need to get those guys back in, whether they're 100% or not. But yeah, right now it's all just, we're going to wait. We're going to see things out. We're going to do things right. And that's a good situation to be in.
Right. You kind of stole the words right out of my mouth. I know that this whole Norris conversation has just been a huge negative gray cloud over Ottawa. But there's a huge positive to take away from it. And it's that the medical staff is doing it right. They are waiting. Maybe they're doing it too right, waiting too long. I don't know if he might have been ready a month and a half ago, but they just want him to get a lot of reps in to be sure. But look at Matt Murray, all of his injuries, back and forth, in and out of the lineup. And I believe when he got to Toronto, he kind of threw some shade at Ottawa's medical staff. Look at Shane Pinto, injured his shoulder after Mario Ferraro threw him into the boards. And then he was out for 2 games, came back, re-injured his shoulder on a face-off in the third period. And then Josh Norris, same thing. He played 8 games last year, missed 2 months or so, didn't want the surgery, didn't want to do this and that. Came back in January, first period, pulls his shoulder out on a face-off. Again, just exact same as Pinto. The medical staff have not done, and again, this might not have anything to do with the medical staff. It might just be dumb luck, whatever. But the medical staff are doing it right this time. We can almost 100% see that right now. It's not 100% that they were doing it right before, but right now what they're doing is the right decision, especially for the kind of reputation that they're starting to build for themselves. So I like that they're being patient.
Yeah, sorry to just jump in here. But I was just thinking, like, it reminds me kind of the Sidney Crosby situation a few years ago,
right?
Where he was, getting over concussion syndromes, and symptoms and all that, and they took a long time to let him recover. And when he came back, he was Sidney Crosby again.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Paul, did you have something to add?
No, it's just speculation, really. I mean, what happens if we're still talking about Norris's potential return and we're 10 games into the season or more? I mean, that's a different conversation. Then I think they're going to start thinking about putting him on long-term injured reserve. I mean, there's something clearly, if this keeps up much longer, there's something seriously wrong with that shoulder, and you're going to have to make some decisions on the assumption that he's not coming back anytime soon. So, we're getting to that point. Stay tuned.
Right. And again, we'll wrap this up really quickly here. But one last thought is, if we do get 10 games into the season, that's kind of a huge fumble on Dorion, because at that point, he could have been on LTIR. He could have Pinto signed, could have him in the lineup, because LTIR is 10 games or 24 days, whichever is the shorter amount. So at that point, like, you could have just punted this cap situation down the road a little bit, signed Pinto. So that's kind of all the roster stuff that we're going to talk about for today. After this quick break, we're going to talk about Tim Stutzle versus the refs, a very notable rivalry, and just some of our favorite moments from the weekend. So before we get into that, here's a quick message from the Hockey Writers. We at the Hockey Writers have recently expanded our offerings with a Substack dedicated to every team, as well as a general one for each day's best articles. As Senators fans, you don't want to miss any of the content that we produce, and our Senators Substack makes that possible. Sign up to get all of the Hockey Writers Senators articles delivered directly to your inbox multiple times per week. We even offer premium subscription that gives you access to exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else, including game chats, post-game reports, specialized articles, live questions and answers, and more. Join now to get a discount on an annual subscription. A sign-up link can be found in the video description. All right, so now that we've kind of got our ad reads through and all that fun stuff, we're going to get into Tim Stutzle. There's been a lot of controversy over the 2 home games, really. It didn't really come up during the Carolina game, but at home, him versus the refs. It started last year, maybe the year before. I don't know. It's all a blur. With a couple diving calls, and he earned a reputation of being a diver. Brendan Gallagher called him out. Have to admit, it was pretty funny. And so, now he has the reputation of being somebody to embellish calls. Over the weekend, especially in the rink, it was very obvious during the home opener that there was just, every time that he would get touched, he would turn to the refs, put his arms up, and just give them the look. And then at the whistle, he would go have a conversation and whatever. During the game against the Lightning, again, I didn't watch it, but I saw all the highlights and heard it on the radio. There were some egregious missed calls against him, some very obvious trips. There was 2 in a row. And then after that, he threw a hit. Maybe his hands were a little bit high, but it didn't even look like he was ready to throw a hit. Like it was more of a collision. He got a roughing call on that. I understand where that's coming from, but after the 2 missed calls that just happened, you can't call that a rough. So the whole controversy over the past couple of days has been Tim Stutzle needs to shut up and stop talking to the refs. He needs to develop that relationship. It's the Sidney Crosby syndrome. That's exactly what it is. He's a superstar who is known for diving around the league. And again, I think he only has 1, maybe 2 embellishment calls in his career. But he's been known for diving and for talking to the refs, trying to get a call every time that he can. What do you make of this whole situation right now, Dayton?
Yeah, the Crosby comparison is, I think, very apt. Crosby came into the league and was immediately labeled as a baby, a whiner. Yeah. He, was always jarring at the refs and wouldn't get the calls, would get roughed around. I think I saw one clip where like Darian Hatcher, the giant 6'4" defenseman, is just ragdolling Crosby as a teenager, and the refs aren't doing anything about it.
Yeah.
It was almost like a, welcome to the big times type of thing. And I wonder if they're putting Stutzle through that a little bit, and Stutzle doesn't like it. Because of course not. He's German. Things must be followed by the rules. I can joke that because my in-laws are German. So
Perfect.
Yeah, it's okay. But I think he does need to shut up a little bit, because those reputations are really hard to break, especially with how much pressure the refs are under right now. They're getting a lot of heat, and they don't want to deal with that, because who would? It's a nightmare to deal with, I can imagine. So, another guy's trying to get calls. Yeah, we're not giving it to him. It's a little bit like Michael Bunting, though Bunting is a bit more of a pest. Right. And yeah, doesn't play that line very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got completely ignored by the refs. So while I don't really agree with it, I think Stutzle does need to calm down a bit and just kind of take it, and hopefully things will get easier quicker then.
Right. And before I ask for your thoughts, Paul, and give mine, there was one tweet and I didn't see it going around too much, so you two might have missed it. But there was a meeting there were 64 people from teams around the league, that the league hosted a meeting and said, you need to tell your coaches to stop yelling at our refs. They showed 20 clips and said and again, I don't remember who tweeted it. I apologize. I even kind of saved it. But anyway, they said that it was a pretty lighthearted meeting. Like, it wasn't like they were ripping into all the managers and everything, but they showed 20 clips of coaches yelling at refs and said, like, this stuff has to stop. So it's really interesting that we can have this conversation and those meetings are going on at the same time. So I just wanted to throw that out there before asking you what your thoughts are, Paul.
Yeah, well, I don't know, not to put too fine a point on it, but DJ needs to tell Claude Giroux to sit the kid down and have a fatherly talk with him. I mean, the message would be, stop being such a big baby. You need to, this stuff when he's fouled and he gives the exasperated look to the ref and the wave of the arms. Where's the call? Where's the call? Look, this is the NHL, and the message to him from the referees is, you're not going to make a monkey out of us. And that's something Crosby had to learn. Every time he came within 3 feet of Crosby, he'd throw his head back. And there, you're not going to make idiots out of NHL referees. So he just has to expect that as an emerging star in the game, he's going to take a lot of crap from other players. That's what Tortorella told the Flyers to do. And the kid lost his cool. Well, you've got to play through that. Crosby learned how to do it. That just comes with the territory. And so he Yeah, grow up, get some control of your emotions, because you keep this up, and yeah, the refs aren't going to call stuff on you that maybe they should call.
Okay, so I'm glad that you two both took that route with your answers because I strongly disagree. Well, not well, in a sense, I think that he needs to kind of button up his pants and just kind of get on with the game, whatever. But why are these refs not calling those trips? It is their job to officiate a game. That was an obvious trip. You call that. I don't care if it's double overtime of Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't care if it's the first preseason game. I don't care if it's Rourke Chartier tripping to reference Steve Dangle, Ross Boston. Like, I don't care who it is. It's just that's a penalty. Why is a ref's feelings changing whether that's a penalty or not? The refs having their own feelings is not something that needs to be changing a game. I don't care about their feelings. The NHL shouldn't care about their feelings. It's not something that should be deciding a game, right? So Ottawa's lucky that they came out with a 5-2 win against the Lightning, but those two trips, it could have been a 7-2 game, right? Or if they didn't win the game, that could have cost them the game. The refs' feelings should not be impacted by players. Like, it should not be impacting what happens on the ice. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they shouldn't, but they are.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's the point. That's where I say Tim Stutzle does have to kind of, like I said, button up his pants, stop doing this, because that is the way the NHL runs. Tim Peel came out a few weeks ago, did an interview and said that, yeah, sure, he would let Crosby or Ovechkin or Kane get away with some things because they are the superstars. They want all the fans came to watch them. Sure, that's fine sometimes, but like, I don't know. You gotta have a standard, and if your feelings are getting hurt on the ice, you're not meeting that standard.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. The game should be called tighter. You reference the Steve Dangle podcast; they go off on that a lot, and a lot of the points I agree with. But when you're talking about those emotions and you're talking about that meeting with the coaches and the GMs, I read about that on The Athletic, and it said it was very lighthearted and sort of a tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, tone it down. But the coaches took it seriously, and when you have a conversation with somebody, then emotions don't have to come into it.
Yep.
When you are yelling and cursing and screaming at someone, they will get frustrated, they will get angry, and they will react as such. That's how humans act. The same thing with Stutzle, right? He's given the eye rolls. He's given the come on, where's my call?
Yep.
The refs are going to see that, and it's like, what are you going to do? This is how the league is. Shouldn't be. That's not how it should be, but it is how it is. I'd love it if they didn't target the kids and beat them into submission. That sucks. Imagine what Crosby could have been if they didn't give him concussions because they kept elbowing him, right?
Yeah,
that's
a
massive problem.
Yeah, but now I'm going to sound old school here, like
not
Don.
you.
But with Stutzle, I notice if I'm the coach, I notice he wants to mix it up, physically, and I wish he would. I want him scoring goals when he's giving other players jam. Let McEwen do that stuff. Take yourself out of that situation. And for Crosby, I mean, one view is he probably needed an enforcer at that time because guys were skating by and sort of accidentally on purpose giving him an elbow, and he'd be out with a concussion. Maybe that's what Stutzle needs, is someone riding shotgun, because up to now, from what I've seen, he just can't control his emotions. And Philadelphia, look what they did to him. They got in his face all night long and he lost it. So maybe Ottawa needs somebody on that line or somewhere to clean that stuff up.
He's got Brady Tkachuk on his wing. What more do you want?
Huh?
That's
He's
a
got
good guy
Brady
to have
Kachuk on his
beside.
wing. What else? Like,
Well, but even to Chuck, I don't want him fighting either, right?
right. And so
I
that's
mean, you
that's where the conflict of interest comes in. Do you want really skilled guys to help a great player become an even better player, or do you want to put McEwen on the first line and just to protect Stutzle? Like, there's a balance to that.
no, I'm not suggesting McEwen goes on the first line. I'm just suggesting that when somebody on the Philadelphia Flyers, for example, is taking liberties on him, send them out and deal with that guy
Okay,
and
yeah,
tell Timmy to, you know, zip it and get control of his emotions. But I don't want him mixing things up. And I certainly don't want to Chuck doing that. It doesn't take much to break your hand on somebody's helmet.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
you got
No,
a pretty good point there, Paul. Because I was just thinking, like maybe we don't need to go right back to the 80s with guys who could like barely handle the puck, who are out there to break people. But you would not have had Gretzky without Semenko.
Yeah.
yeah. And it's a whole conversation. And like, I'm gonna go back to my point and just say like, two things can be true at once. The refs need to be better. Tim Stutzle needs to be better with the refs.
I like that.
You just need to figure out where the balance is because officiating is never going to be black and white. There's always going to be feelings involved, and people's feelings get hurt. Like I believe it was you that just said that, Paul. Feelings are going to get hurt. It's the way of life. So, moving away from Tim Stutzle and probably losing a few subscribers because of that.
I thought we were pretty balanced, right?
Pretty balanced, yeah.
I mean, you know, at the end of this segment, all we're doing is we're advocating peace and love and understanding, right?
Right, exactly.
There you
Have love,
go.
everybody. Have love. Um, so some of the most positive things that you could possibly imagine happen in the home opening weekend. Arguably some of the most positive things in 20 years. Like it was such an incredible weekend. And I was very grateful to have the opportunity to go to home opener. It was fantastic. Some of the great things that happened, I'm going to just list them out right now. So Lyndon Sluage returning for the anthem. The way that the crowd erupted when he walked out onto the ice was insane. All the owners coming out, or all the previous owners and Michael Andlauer coming out to drop the puck. So you had Bruce Firestone, Rod Brydon, Anna and Olivia Melnick, and Andlauer come out to drop the puck together. That was awesome to see. I don't know if that's something that has really ever been done. I haven't seen it. Every team that has ever sold could have done it. I don't know. But seeing Ottawa do that, especially with the whole like since day one, ownership has been a huge question mark in Ottawa. It only took 2 years for Bruce Firestone to end up selling the team. Rod Brydon held it for a while, almost went out of business until Melnick saved it. We all know what the Melnick era was like. So yeah, it was great to see them all together to kind of celebrate the new era. The alumni puck drop, again, along with the new era, bridges are being restored that were previously burnt. Straight to the ground, they were burnt. So we had Daniel Alfredson, Chris Phillips, Chris Neal, and Frank Finnegan Jr. So all of the retired numbers, they all come out onto the ice and dropped the puck for the game against Tampa. It was, and then the on ice wins. Those are another bonus, another great part of the weekend. And then Daniel Alfredson introduced on the bench. I don't know if that was on the broadcast.
Yeah.
They were going through and introducing all the staff on the bench. I think it was a huge mistake not to have Alfie at the end because he was right in the middle, and then you couldn't hear a single thing in that arena. All it was Alfie chants, but it was awesome. So, what was your favorite moment of opening weekend, Paul?
Well, you know, all of those things, there's no doubt that was a marketing performance put together by Cyril Leader that we haven't seen in that barn. And I've been to a lot of games in that barn in a long, long time. But, you know, one of the things that stood out for me, I was quite surprised by it, was they showed a clip at the end of the game where Andlauer was out at the corner of the box, and there was a lineup of fans wanting to shake his hand. So I thought that didn't get a lot of attention, but for me, that just demonstrated the new era. There's a honeymoon. Now, how long Ottawa fans are going to want to keep shaking his hands, we'll see. Usually Ottawa fans they eat their owners, but yeah, that stood out for me. But all the stuff you mentioned, though, yeah, it was good to see. I mean, Toronto does that every year. We never see, celebrating the 1967 Stanley Cup victory. Never gets tired in Toronto, so it's good to see us doing something schmaltzy like that.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you look at the Habs fans, I think they have 24 Stanley Cup parades every year and rub it in everybody's face.
If you got him, you might as well.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
What was your highlight of the weekend, Dayton?
I really liked that kind of reuniting of the old owners. I think that connected the team to its past more than it ever has in its franchise history. I think, at least under the Melnyk era, which is what I'm most familiar with, that's sort of dominated, the last, 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's basically been the entire time I've been paying attention to hockey. Those early franchises, not early franchises, but the early teams, the early rosters, the time of barely, scraping out of the bottom of the league was sort of, okay, that was our rough beginnings. We'll not talk of them again.
Yeah.
Now we are, right? Bruce Firestone and Rod Brightson brought this franchise into what it is today. There was some stumbling blocks, sure, but you needed those foundational pieces, and I loved seeing them all together. Even the Melnyk sisters, that's a great tie-in and sort of a nice little homage to the part that they played, because they did play a part.
Yep.
It's not ignoring their impact in this team. Yeah, that's awesome. I would love to see that expanded further. More connections to the rest of this city, this franchise. I'd love to see more of the connection to the old franchise, the one that started the NHL. I love researching that era. That's nuts. And I'm working on a piece. It won't be out for a while, but looking at one of their first stars. So nice. Yeah, that was my favorite part.
Well, you can give us a hint on the first one of their first stars, Dayton?
How much of a hint do you want? Do you want the name? Do you want
well, we could maybe save it for another show for one of Jacob's trivia segments.
I could give you a trivia part for it. He didn't have full vision when he was playing and leading the league in goals.
That's insane.
Yeah. I believe he was blind in one eye.
Wow. I have no idea. I honestly, there's maybe Frank Finnegan's the only one I can name from that era right now.
Okay, well, put it in a comment if you have it on. Yeah. Post your answer in the comments if you know.
That's a good one. Paul, you don't have a guess, do you?
Nah. No. I mean, you saw me play trivia last week. I got killed. Not 1 point.
I'll have to give you a message and give you an advantage. I'll tell you the questions so you can look them up before the next one.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I gotta say, one of my favorite moments, and it maybe wasn't my number one favorite, but it wasn't mentioned yet, was Claude Giroux's 1,000th point ceremony. Yeah. Having the Flyers in the building, it must have been intentional. He scored his 1,000th point with 2 games left in the season last year. Didn't have the opportunity to celebrate it. The Ottawa Senators must have been pushing for the Flyers to be in the building for home opener. Having Alfredson come out and give him the commemorative stick was awesome. Even better than that was Brady Tkachuk coming out and giving Gavin and Palmer Giroux their little sticks, and they were all engraved with their names on it. I'm sure at this point, everybody that's watching this podcast has watched the video of Gavin Giroux mic'd up. That was such an awesome video. And it was just so cool to see so much involvement with the whole family. They were all super welcomed and celebrated. And even Giroux's wife was kind of saying to Gavin, he's like, "This is your day. We don't have to watch the game. We can go wherever you want." Like the whole family involvement was awesome, and as a father, I loved it. It's definitely a soft spot there for me, including Gavin in that. So that's my biggest takeaway from the weekend. All right. So that's gonna wrap things up for this week. Leave your thoughts and comments on all of our topics in the comment box down below. Thanks again for tuning in. We really appreciate all of the support that we get. I'm going to give a shout out to Patrick. Met him in Ottawa this weekend and was a huge fan of the show. So shout out to you. Thank you for Paul and Dayton for joining me yet again. Not going to put any huge pressure on you for trivia. Oh, right. I was wrong last week with trivia. Nikita Zaitsev is not the last player to play for Ottawa, born in the USSR. It was Vladimir Tarasenko. He was born 12 days. He was born in Russia 12 days before the USSR became Russia and split up. So just wanted to correct myself on that one. But yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed and see you next week.